Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm so excited you're here. It is release day for Trinity Stamps. We haven't had a new release in a couple months and this one is so good. So here's the card we're going to make today. It is a shaker with our little dino that sort of floats around inside the shaker. And you guys, there's a giveaway and a hop. So tons of inspiration using the new products. And I want to show you how we're going to make this. I'm beginning by using the Puffy cloud stencil. It's my favorite cloud stencil of all time because it is so big. So you can get lots of different looks. Sometimes when I'm stenciling clouds, I struggle because I feel like it's just the same clouds over and over again. But I can keep rotating and flipping this one to get tons of different sort of layouts for my clouds. So I am rotating my stencil here. I have an A2 panel on a grip mat, and then I'm using a light teal ink in my Blending Buddy brush. I like the Blending Buddies for this because I have a lot of control, and I'm going to be rotating through 3 different shades of teal ink. I like to start by tapping into my ink, tapping onto the stencil, and then pulling up gently from the stencil onto my paper. In some places like this one and the next one, I will connect one puff of the new cloud line with a white puff from the old cloud line just to get some variation. So sometimes the clouds look like they're meeting up and overlapping. I've switched here to my medium teal ink and I'll continue for a couple of rows and then I'll switch to my darkest teal here, and you can see because of how much control I have, I don't have any worries about splotchiness or problems. Then I'll come up just a little bit from the bottom so it doesn't look like I forgot that area, and our panel is done. To create some added interest, I'm using Emergency Card Essentials die set number 2 and the largest rectangle to cut out my panel. It'll be a little smaller than A2 and it's going to have some great deboss detail around the edges. Friends, would you look at these stamps? The T-Rex with the grabby arms, or the ones that are trying to hug and it says, "Hug me, I'm trying." It's so funny to me. I colored and cut this out ahead of time because this is a hop and I want you to have time to go see everybody's videos. But I cut out 2 extra pieces of that dino from just plain white cardstock. 2 of them I glued together for the front, and then I'm using my tweezers to help me tie a knot in some very, very thin, clear thread. I want this dino to look like he's sort of floating up into the air. I don't want him to touch the bottom of my shaker, right? So this will keep him able to sort of bounce around in there without ending up upside down and without falling all the way to the bottom. So I am using some rip and stick tape and I am taping down my thread, but then I'm going to peel off the backing paper and I'm going to fold that thread up through that sticky area. And I'm just going to do this back and forth a couple of times. It's essentially a plastic thread. It's a really slippery. That knot will help some as like a last resort safety measure, but I don't want the thread to slip out, especially because there are small hands in my family. Probably this is going to go to a relative, and if they shake it too hard, I don't want anything to happen. And then we have like this poor deflated balloon dino that's stuck on the bottom of my card. So once I have that taped down a bunch of times and I've sort of overlapped the thread back and forth, then I will glue everything together. I like the combination of that double-sided adhesive and the wet glue. It's not going anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and line this up where I want it on my cloud panel, and then on the back I'm going to do the same thing. So I have one piece of tape at the top, and then I'm going to go a little further down and put another piece of tape. I'll take off the backing paper and then pull that thread up over the tape. Put a new piece of tape down and then pull it down over top of the new tape. I'm going to do this a couple of times. I am an over adheser. You know what? I just want to be safe. So you can kind of see there's a ton of tape on the back there, and this guy can bounce around on the front of my card. While I start assembling a few of these pieces, I do want to let you know there is a $25 gift card giveaway to Trinity Stamps. So be sure to check the description box below the video for all the details. I will also have a link to the playlist for this hop. There is tons of inspiration. We have new designers on the team and I love them so much, and guest designers. So be sure to check it out. I love when we do a playlist style hop because it's just then one page and you can see everybody's videos. It's so much simpler. So these are A2 shaker panels, and I love these for this particular kind of shaker because it domes a little bit, and I feel like I get a little better movement from my shaker pieces and from my Dino, but certainly you could just use some recycled packaging and do something very similar. I am lining up a little bit of that rip and stick tape around the outside edges, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the cover on 3 of my sides. So I'm using my fingers and I'm pressing down on these score lines. I find it easier to do now instead of waiting until it's on the card and then maybe I accidentally press it into the adhesive and it's not quite where I want it. This way, everything's going to be lined up perfectly. There is a protective coating that you can peel off from the inside. Make sure you do that. It's going to look a little bit cloudy until you take that out of there. And then I can just set this right inside. These come in lots of different sizes. So there's an A2 size. There's one that's 4 by 5 1/4, so just a little bit smaller. And then they have circles too, which are awesome because circle shakers are hard to make. I have removed that release paper from 3 sides. I'm pressing down my flaps into the adhesive, and you can see my Dino is just moving around in there. Those 2 are new. Those are sparkle spots, and sparkle spots are my favorite embellishment of all time. They're super, super thin, very sparkly, and now they come in new colors. So I'm going to start by adding lime, and I tell you what, you guys, I dumped some in, and then these went everywhere, like all over my table and my floor. I was able to pick most of them up, and these don't shed much at all. So that works out really nicely. You don't have like little bits of glitter going everywhere. I've added silver as well. That's been out for a while. This is the orange. They also have new ones in fuchsia and watermelon, and they're so pretty. Honestly, this is a color palette that is unusual for me. And so I just thought it would be fun to try to stretch outside my comfort zone, but those 2 new pinks are amazing. I'm adding more rip and stick tape all around the outside on the back, and I'm covering up like part cardstock and part of the flap. I just feel like it's a little more secure that way. This is the Simply Sentimental birthday stamp set. There are tons of these. We're going to use the new friend set today too, but I am just stamping happy birthday. These are very small. My happy didn't come out quite as well as I wanted, so I'll stamp it one more time. And then I am using Emergency Card Essentials die set number 1. There are sentiment strip dies in here. And in fact, there's 2 of them that are 1/4 inch. They're the perfect size for all these little sub-sentiments. I lined them up on the left-hand side of my words to cut them out. And then I just lined the die up one more time. I sort of fit it in like a puzzle piece to cut out the other end so I would have that beautiful beveled edge. I'm doing the same thing with the larger strip die. It's 3/8 of an inch, and it makes the perfect matte layer for these. So I have beautiful, perfectly cut happy birthday strip sentiments. I am terrible at cutting a straight line for sentiments, just using my trimmer. So this is a lifesaver for me. This is the new Simply Sentimental friend set, and we have the word friend and friends in a bunch of different fonts. The dies will cut the words and the shadows, but they also cut out the stamped large words, which is awesome. So it's really perfect for mixing and matching and all of your sentiment needs. There's really great sub-sentiments in that stamp set as well. I have cut friend with rip and stick sheet on the back, and I'm layering it on top of some vellum. And then I cut it one more time, but I had the rip and stick sheet on top so I could layer another friend word on the back. I prefer that when I'm going to add this on top of something really glossy like my shaker cover. I don't want the glue oozing out, and I don't want to accidentally put the glue where it doesn't belong. So it will lift it up a little bit, but it also just makes me less likely to make a mess, if that makes sense. Friend is very dainty here, so I'm just doing tiny little dots of glue, and then to make sure it doesn't ooze out, I'm going to tap that on the back of my hand. You could use scratch paper if you wanted to, and I will put that on the bottom of my card. I tell you what, friends, you could do this with so many different stamped images. I just think that it's a lot of fun. I'm going to go ahead and add this onto a card base, and then we'll add an inside greeting as well. I am taking off that release paper from all of my rip and stick tape, but then again, I like wet glue and the dry adhesive. That wet glue is going to give me a little bit of float time when I go to add this onto my card base. So in case I don't line it up perfectly the first time, I'm still going to be okay. Then once I press down, that dry adhesive is going to grab right away. So inside, I'm going to use one of the Sassy Birthday Emergency Card Sentiments. It says, "You make old people look good," which I thought was apropos since we have a dinosaur who's very old. I mean, he doesn't look that old, but trust me, like ancient, prehistoric even. And we're going to go ahead and put this on the inside. I've used the circles from Emergency Card Essentials die set number 2. And I added it with removable adhesive in case I end up giving this to someone who doesn't share my sense of humor, but chances are low. It's probably going to stay there. So here is our final card. Friends, be sure to check the description box for all the details on how to register to win that $25 gift card. And be sure to hop along. Just click on the playlist and it will show you everybody's videos. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.